Pain often begets pain. Trauma often begets trauma. Life begets life. While We Wait Here is an indie dining simulator, but it's not actually much of a simulator, and you don't really run the diner in any sort of business sense. The diner management is simply a pleasant and safe backdrop to explore the lives and traumas of a group of people inextricably tied together at the end of the world. There's a subtle comfort in doing the things we're familiar with in tough times, and While We Wait Here uses those moments to tell many of its best little stories, and it does it all in about 2 hours. It's a game you should give a go. It'll cost you the same as a diner coffee and probably leave a better aftertaste. Here is why I liked While We Wait Here. There's often only so much you can reasonably expect from a game you pay a couple of pounds for. That's part of why the likes of Vampire Survivors took off as it did. Pricing is not inherently indicative of effort, but instead scope. It's part of why there have been so many AAA games that were widely criticised for only being a handful of hours long. No one has the time to play every single game out there, yet we feel let down if the scope of a game doesn't match the rather arbitrary brackets we wrap around the price of a game. The same is true of marketing. Many good games have been let down by outside factors, painting them as the wrong thing. But marketing is also part of any piece of art. Even if something isn't designed to make money, the act of getting people to pay attention in the first place is a form of marketing. With only a few hundred Steam reviews and just a handful when I first played it, While We Wait Here is seemingly pretty light in both price and marketing. It's a nostalgic game, and not just because of its pretty retro aesthetic. Everything has this brooding, contemplative atmosphere, and it uses a non-linear narrative to force you into constantly piecing together the things you've already seen and what you're about to. This, and the encroaching storm outside of the cozy diner you run, projects this sinister tone to everything, a darkness you just can't quite see yet. You feel this darkness the whole way through, not just the feeling that you need to discover what the story has to say, but the feeling that it's lying to you by omission. There's something going on here, and you are the last to know. Our central protagonists are Nora and Cliff, two owners of a diner in the middle of a desert, but I wouldn't say you play as these in a strict sense. They are what grounds you in the narrative, flipping burgers and making drinks, but the game places you in the shoes of the diner's many customers too, allowing you a peek into their own neuroses and traumas. It's a rather unifying game like that, zooming out from what makes its many lost souls different and painting them as the same shade of grey. This effort to characterize its ensemble can leave it crawling from little more than archetypes, with the depiction of a very obviously mentally ill man feeling a tad unnuanced and fantastical, but it also depicts the many other struggles of its cast well. It is perhaps indicative of the game's most cliched bits of writing. This disconnect feels a little thoughtless to a game that is otherwise thoughtful and immersive. The recipes you follow to sell customers' orders are simple, like grabbing burgers from a fridge to throw on a grill or a plate to put it on, but the lack of a strict timer or any money management settles what this game is well. These tasks are busy work, not to extend the game time, but to pace the way that customers interact with you. You are the bartender listening to the woes of your clientele. I mean, food is a good distraction at a funeral. It's something to do with your hands and a socially acceptable reason to keep yourself moving around. It's also important to look after yourself in times of stress and grief. Food is just another language one can use to connect. The choices that people make around their food and the way it connects to them can tell you just as much as the words they use, and people don't think to lie about their feelings with their food choices. While We Wait Here's diner serves food because that's part of how people connect to one another, but it being a diner is also important because it's a pit stop in whatever destination you need to get to next. You feel like both a commuter and onlooker as the owner of that diner. In that, the diner functions as a sort of limbo for our characters to move from one place to another, and the way While We Wait Here tells that story is existential and surprisingly sincere. The relative mundanity of taking those orders can lead to a degree of psychological horror as the game shifts the tone sharply, but it feels like it's only ever intended to serve the story, and that tale isn't served by pure terror. Everything from the storm outside to doors that lead to the wrong location and memories that blend into each other serves to psych you out and make you doubt your own sense in a way that pushes you into the lives of its cast well. Playing Cliff at the start, it can be easy to feel detached from the stories in front of you, but as you switch to Nora and further investigate them, you and them become tied as one. I'm not going to spoil the grander narrative at play, but I will say that, despite some cliche endings to stories, I found myself enjoying the way they were told quite a lot. I liked reaching into the mind of Hank, an aging farmer, to figure out why he couldn't stop working. I enjoyed the dynamic between Lisa and Alex, and the way they could never quite keep their secrets to themselves. Despite some shoddy voice work in areas, I found myself connecting to the people behind them. While We Wait Here provides an atmosphere palpable enough to easily look over much of the game's flaws by the time I hit credits. This is the team's best effort so far, with standout previous releases from the aptly named Bad Vices being Ravenous Devils, a Sweeney Todd-style cooking game, and Sexual Void, a JOI porn game that costs a measly £2.09. But I also think it would be a standout game from a slightly more established team because even a month after finishing, it'll occasionally pop into my head. I think what I admire most about While We Wait Here is its existence in the first place. This is an art project from a clearly still developing team that I think has the chops to make something much grander in the future. I feel like I've gotten on the ground floor of a potential legacy, and ultimately I'd live to see so much more of this on Steam. It's a great experience in itself for just a couple of bucks, but it also feels like so much more. It's a bite-sized game that serves as a great palate cleanser before digging into something a bit meatier. Neither is inherently better than the other, and taken in its context can feel just as satisfying. Thank you for watching my video on While We Wait Here. I played this over a month ago now, but many games, Stalker 2 mostly, and Personal Life got in the way, and I wasn't too sure how I would frame this, and I wanted something a little bit more, ironically, bite-sized for my video. I didn't want to spend 20 minutes analysing over themes and then ruining the whole thing, especially because it's only a couple of pounds to try it for yourself. If you like this video or any of my others, please do subscribe or give this a like or comment saying something you want me to check out next. It really helps me, it helps motivate me, and I love to see people seemingly connecting to some of the things I'm saying. Thank you so much, and please subscribe.